Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, which will discuss the application requirements for the Smart Reentry Grant Program administered by the Bureau of Justice Assistance. My name is Bonnie Sultan, and I am the Grantee Technical Assistance Manager for Corrections and Reentry at the Council of State Governments Justice Center that provides training and technical assistance to all grantees funded under the Federal Second Chance Act. Before we begin, I have a couple of technical notes. If you encounter connection or audio problems during this webinar, please call WebEx Technical Support. They can be reached at 1-866-229-3239. We'll also put that number up on the chat box for your screen. Unfortunately, there are some connection issues we may not be able to solve during the webinar. However, we're recording today's webinar, and everyone who's registered will receive an email as soon as the webinar is available. Today we are joined with Anthony Bethea. He is with the Department of Justice, Bureau of Justice Assistance. He is a policy advisor, and we are very grateful that Andre is able to join us today. First, I'm going to give you a small outline of today's presentation. We're going to be talking about an overview of the Second Chance Act. We'll be discussing BJA Smart Suite, Smart Reentry Focus on Evidence-Based Strategies, Smart Reentry, focus on evidence-based strategies for successful reentry from incarceration to community, and we're going to have questions and answers at the end of the session. The Council of State Governments Justice Center is a national nonprofit organization that serves policymakers at the local, state, and federal levels from all branches of government. Staff provides practical, nonpartisan advice and evidence-based, consensus-driven strategies to increase public safety and to strengthen communities. Technical assistance for the Second Chance Act grants is provided by the National Reentry Resource Center, which is funded by the Bureau of Justice Assistance and managed by us here at the Justice Center, providing support to SCA grantees and the broader field. The NRRC has delivered TA for over 600 Second Chance Act grantees and provides individualized, intensive, and targeted TA, training, and distance learning and support for SCA grantees. The Research Center is continually adding new content and resources to our website, and we send out a monthly newsletter that provides information about the latest research, funding opportunities, distance learning events, and other news about reentry. To sign up for the newsletter, please visit the link on your screen after today's webinar. You can sign up for the Council of State Government Justice Center newsletters and announcements at the website http://csgjusticecenter.org/subscribe. The Second Chance Act went into public law in April 8, 2008. It authorized $136 million for prisoner reentry programs in fiscal years for 2015 and 16. The purpose of the Second Chance Act is to help promote states and communities to reduce recidivism and increase public safety. The Second Chance Act has current funding opportunities available to you. In the fiscal year 2016, which is currently up for application, there's $68 million appropriated for Second Chance Act grant programs. Funding will be distributed between adult and juvenile grant programs and across solicitations. The current solicitations for FY16 that have been released are for comprehensive community-based adult reentry mentoring program, reentry program from adults with co-occurring substance abuse and mental disorders, smart supervision, and the technology-based career. To receive announcements when new SCA solicitations are posted, you can sign up for the newsletter. And you can also, again, take a look for the link at the end of this presentation, and you can click right there. There have been nearly $40 million awarded for adult demonstration, or now called Smart Reentry grants, with a total of 90 awards. BJA estimates that it will make up to 5 awards that will be up to $1 million each, including up to $150,000 for the initial planning period of 12 months and $850,000 for the implementation period of 24 months to begin on the date on which the planning period is concluded. The period which it will begin is on October 1st, 2016. However, please note that we are not presently certain about the total dollar amount that will be allocated. The screen merely illustrates a historical number of grants awarded and total amount awarded per fiscal year to date. I encourage you to visit BJA's website at www.bja.gov and click on the funding link to explore how much each grantee was awarded. More importantly, later on in the webinar, Andre Bethea will provide guidance on the maximum amount that's awarded under this grant program. The Bureau of Justice Assistance, the mission of the agency is to provide leadership and services in grant administration and criminal justice policy development to support local, state, and tribal justice strategies to achieve safer communities. We're again super honored to have Andre Bethea here from BJA to talk with us about the SMART Suite and to guide us through the process of applying for the Smart Reentry Grant. I introduce you to Mr. Bethea.
Thank you, Bonnie, and thank you all for joining us today. I'd like to talk about the SMART Suite program and how Smart Reentry, formerly known as the Adult Demonstration Program, will fit within the suite and help to inform the field. As you can see from the map, BJA has funded programs across the country to help to lower recidivism and increase public safety through evidence-based practices and cross-agency partnerships. Section 201 of the Second Chance Act authorizes federal awards to state and local governments and federally recognized Indian tribal governments that may be used for demonstration projects to promote the safe and successful reintegration into the community of individuals who have been incarcerated or detained. Smart Reentry, formerly the two-phase Adult Demonstration Program. The solicitation was released in April 2016. All applications are due to be submitted and in receipt of a successful validation message in grants.gov by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time on June 9th, 2016. Staff assistance through the BJA Justice Information Center will only be available until 8 p.m. Eastern Time. As noted on the screen where the solicitation is available online. The grants.gov support hotline hours of operation are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, except federal holidays. For additional information, see the following sections in the solicitation, how to apply, and Section D, application submission information. BJA Smart Suite of programs invest in the development of practitioner-researcher partnerships that use data, evidence, and innovation to create strategies and interventions that are effective and economical. This data-driven approach enables jurisdictions to understand the full nature and the extent of the crime challenges they are facing and to target resources to the highest priorities. We are excited to announce that Smart Reentry will now be a member of BJA's Smart Suite of programs. The Smart Suite represents a strategic approach that brings science into criminal justice operations by leveraging innovative applications of analysis, technology, and evidence-based practices, with the goal of improving performance and effectiveness while containing cost. This work requires practitioner agencies to partner with researchers using an action research approach to enhance the collection and review of the data. which in turn can serve as a strong foundation for outcome evaluations of program interventions. We will now discuss the Smart Reentry Award and requirements. BJA estimates that it will make up to 5 awards of up to $1 million each. This includes up to $150,000 for the initial planning period of 12 months, then phased into up to $850,000 for an implementation period of 24 months to begin on the date on which the planning period is concluded. The project period will begin on October 1, 2016. The goal of this program is to support jurisdictions to develop and implement comprehensive and collaborative strategies that address the challenges posed by reentry to increase public safety and reduce recidivism for individuals reentering communities from incarceration who are at medium to high risk for recidivating. This process should provide the individual with appropriate evidence-based services, including reentry planning that addresses individual criminogenic needs identified through information obtained from an empirically validated risk needs assessment that also reflects the risk of recidivism for each individual. The reentry plan should reflect both specific and ongoing pre-release and post-release needs, and a strategy for ensuring that these needs are met throughout the duration of the reentry process. The target population for this initiative must be specific subset of medium to high risk individuals as identified using a validated assessment tool, and convicted as an adult and incarcerated in a state, local, or tribal prison or jail. These individuals may include sex offenders, mentally ill individuals, or individuals dually diagnosed with major mental health disorders and alcohol or substance abuse addictions for participation in the funded program. High-risk offenders are defined as individuals that score moderate to high risk based on a validated risk assessment tool. Risk is defined as the likelihood that a person will reoffend upon release from a facility. Applicants must identify the validated assessment tool used and the risk levels eligible for participation in the program. Allowable uses for award funds during the planning phase include the following: support of a reentry task force composed of relevant state, tribal, territorial, or local leaders and representatives of relevant agencies, service providers, nonprofit organizations, and other key stakeholders. Evaluate a jurisdiction's approach to contracting for services and assess whether or not contracts are achieving the most impact in their jurisdiction. So let's stop here at the second bullet. The questions that must be addressed for the second bullet are: what data or service needs or needs from the contracting process? Do contracts target specific outcomes or populations based on that data? Do contracts identify specific services, evidence-based practices, for example? Do contracts articulate evaluation metrics that can be tied to contract performance? Do the contracts create a mechanism to communicate aggregate performance results across contracts? Does it present a multidisciplinary jurisdiction-wide reentry strategy to improve outcomes for individuals leaving prison or jail that incorporates the effective practices and policies outlined in the appendix of the solicitation? We want to move on to the next bullet: continued development of a reentry strategic plan that describes the long-term strategy, including measurable annual and 5-year performance outcomes relating to long-term goals of increasing public safety and reducing recidivism. So once again, we want to kind of take a deeper dive and say, you must incorporate a detailed implementation schedule and sustainability plan for your reentry strategy. Include a discussion of the role of local government agencies, nonprofit agencies, and community stakeholders that will be coordinated by and that will collaborate on the offender reentry strategy of the applicant and its supporting evidence base and certification of the involvement of such agencies and organizations. Include extensive evidence of collaborating with state and local government agencies overseeing health, mental health, housing, including partnerships with public housing authorities, homeless services, child welfare, education, substance abuse, victim services, employment services, and with local law enforcement agencies. Discuss the role of state correction departments, community correction agencies, local jails, and/or juvenile correction systems in ensuring successful reentry of individuals returning from incarceration into their communities. Applications must include letters of support from correction officials responsible for facilities or the individuals to be served through this project. Allowable uses for award funds during the implementation phase include target criminogenic needs that affect recidivism, provide sustained case planning management in the community, support a comprehensive range of services for the formerly incarcerated, provide staff training, coaching, and performance evaluations on new evidence-based practices adopted, resources for civil legal aid, access to health benefits, develop or use an existing data system, transitional employment, improve contract service provision and accountability. Now we're going to discuss the mandatory program components. First up, the ability to track unique identifiers for participants, gain access to recidivism data, and report recidivism data, particularly returns to incarceration during the period 1 year after release. Number 2, engagement of a research partner to assist with finalizing the strategic plan, collecting and analyzing data, finalizing the baseline recidivism rate, forecasting eligible program participant flow to ensure program utilization rates, monitoring and evaluating performance, final analysis and report. The research partner can be an independent consultant or located in an academic institution, a state statistical analysis center, or a research organization. The research partner should have demonstrated expertise conducting this type of work being proposed. Number 3, provide a baseline recidivism rate for the proposed target population, including documentation to support the development of the rate. All grantees will be required to provide a baseline recidivism rate upon award. Then there are mandatory second chance requirements. A reentry strategic plan that describes the jurisdiction's long-term reentry strategy, including measurable annual and 5-year performance outcomes relating to the long-term goals of increasing public safety and reducing recidivism, a detailed reentry implementation schedule and sustainability plan for the program, documentation that reflects the establishment of and ongoing engagement of a reentry task force. The task force should examine ways to pool resources and funding streams and collect data and best practices in reentry from stakeholder agencies and organizations. The task force and the strategic planning requirement above should provide a key opportunity for local policymakers to work together to identify and address local barriers to effective reentry, including barriers that are policy or procedural in nature. Mandatory requirements that must be included in an application to be eligible for funding for a comprehensive reentry program. We're going to continue with number 5. Discussion of the role of local government agencies, nonprofit organizations, continuums of care, state or local interagency councils on homelessness, and community stakeholders that will coordinate and collaborate during the planning and implementation of the reentry strategy. Provide for an independent evaluation of reentry programs that include, to the maximum extent possible, random assignment and control studies to determine the effectiveness of such programs. Number 7, provide for an independent evaluation of reentry programs that include, to the maximum extent possible, random assignments and control studies to determine the effectiveness of such programs. Evidence of collaboration with state and local government agencies overseeing health, mental health, housing, homeless services, child welfare, education, substance abuse, victim services, state child support, and employment services, and with local law enforcement. Number 9, a discussion of the role of state correction departments, community correction agencies, and local jail correction systems ensuring successful reentry in their communities. Applications must include letters of support from correction officials responsible for facilities or individuals to be served through this project. Documentation that reflects explicit support of the chief executive officer of the applicant state, unit, or unit of local government, territory, or Indian tribe, and how this office will remain informed and connected to the activities of the project. A description of the evidence-based methodology and outcome measures that will be used to evaluate the program, and a discussion of how such measurements will provide a valid assessment of the impact of the program. Still discussing the mandatory second chance requirements, number 12, a description of how the project can be scaled up or broadly replicated if demonstrated to be effective. A plan for the analysis of the statutory, regulatory, rules-based, and practice-based hurdles to reintegration of individuals returning from incarceration into the community. Lastly, a discussion of the role of state correction departments, community correction agencies, and local jail correction systems in ensuring successful reentry in their communities. Applications must include letters of support from correction officials responsible for facilities or individuals to be served through this project. Bonnie will now talk with you about the priority considerations as well as the review process.
Thank you, Andre. For Section 201, the priority considerations, priority consideration will be given to applicants who focus their initiative on geographic areas with a disproportionate population returning from prisons, jails, and juvenile facilities, provide for an independent evaluation of reentry programs that include, to the maximum extent possible, random assignment and controlled studies to determine the effectiveness of such programs, target medium to high-risk young adults, ages 24 and younger, and incorporate a developmentally responsive model that accounts for the ongoing brain development of young adults and its impact on decision-making, impulse control, and psychosocial maturity. Demonstrate effective case management and management abilities to provide a comprehensive and continuous reentry process. In terms of number 2, for providing the independent evaluation, research partners should have a demonstrated expertise conducting the type of work proposed. For those looking to target medium to high-risk individuals, all grantees will need to provide a baseline recidivism rate for this award. And for those looking to demonstrate effective case assessment and case management abilities, you'll need to use an actuarial assessment instrument for reentry planning that targets the criminogenic needs and individual that affect the recidivism and provides a sustained case management and service model during incarceration and for at least 6 months into the community. Pre-release planning and transition housing, along with connection to placement into short-term and permanent housing, including permanent supportive housing when appropriate. You can also take a look at establishing pre-release planning procedures to ensure that eligibility of an individual for federal or state benefits is established before release, and those individuals will obtain all necessary referrals from reentry services. a delivery of continuous and appropriate drug treatment, medical care, job treatment and placement, educational services, or any other service or need supported for successful reentry. You should link grant-funded activities and services to affordable and supportive housing, leverage through partnerships with nonprofit housing agencies, public housing authorities, housing finance agencies, and continuums of care, particularly for those who are experiencing or at risk of chronic homelessness. And lastly, include input from nonprofit organizations as relevant and appropriate, consultation with crime victims, and coordination with families of incarcerated individuals. Required deliverables for this program are the planning and implementation guide that will serve as an action plan comprising of problem analysis, logic model, summary of strategies and intended outcomes, and research base for proposed strategies, as well as a final analysis and report by the research partner. The action plan is envisioned as a part of a collaboration among the applicant agency, research partner, and your technical assistance provider. The selection criteria is below. You have the statement of problem for 15%, program design and implementation 35%, capabilities, competencies, and coordination 25%, plan for data collection and performance measurement to meet grants performance measures is 15%, and finally the budget is 10%. The following 6 criteria will be used to evaluate each application with different weight given to each based on the percentage value listed below, as well as each individual criteria. First, we're going to talk about the program narrative. The statement of problem was 15%. You're going to provide a baseline recidivism rate, including the method for calculating the rate for those proposed target population, and discuss what level of reduction in recidivism you would consider to be a success. If the applicant does not have a baseline recidivism rate for a historical sample of ex-offenders similar to the target population, please provide a rate for another population. Within your program description, you're going to describe the problems with the reentry to the community, indicate the jurisdiction or tribal community to be served, and include details on the target population, number of adults to be served in reentering the community, and the number of offense type for adults in facilities. You're going to summarize the basic components of the current reentry process in the jurisdiction to include how risk and needs assessments are currently utilized to develop individualized transition or reentry plans, data collection and analysis, and provide justification and supporting documentation for selecting your target population. Your program design and implementation is 35%. You're going to describe how the planning activities will be addressed, describe in detail how the proposed project addresses the mandatory project requirements and the mandatory Second Chance Act requirements. You'll describe specifically which areas the proposed project will address, use the data to support the project design, describe aspects of the initiative that fulfill one or more priority considerations, describe the roles and responsibilities of the research partner in the Smart Reentry Program and how they are integrated into the applicant's proposed strategy. Indicate the number of people or the veterans who receive services over the length of proposed project. Oh, and of course you're going to provide a description of pre- and post-release services to be provided for each program. Taking a look at number 6, to describing the roles and responsibilities of your research partner, at minimum, the research partner should be able to assist you with finalizing the strategic plan, collecting and analyzing data, finalizing baseline recidivism rate, forecasting eligible program participant flow to ensure program utilization rates, and monitoring and evaluating performance, as well as preparing a final report that thoroughly assesses the results of the project. Taking a look at number 8, for how many people would receive services over the length of the project, it's important to know that if the applicant is requesting funds for a program that is currently operational, the applicant must state how many people the program has served over the past 6 months. If the applicant is proposing to implement a new program, the applicant must state how many people meet the target population characteristics will be served within 6 months. For your capabilities, competencies, and coordination, 25%. Describe the management structure and staffing of the project, identifying the agency responsible for the project and your grant coordinator. Demonstrate the capability of the implementing agency and the collaborative partners to implement the project effectively, including gathering and analyzing data, engaging and collaborating with partners, developing and implementing a plan, and working with research partners to evaluate your project. Describe and provide evidence of the types of quality of data sources available to the agency to conduct appropriate analysis. And describe the qualifications of the Smart Reentry Program research partner and the prior experience of the researcher with action research, including prior work with probation or parole agencies and other criminal justice agencies. Your candidate here should have experienced different data collection and analytical models. It's preferable that they have several years of evaluation experience. Specifically, the applications should include the proposed research partner and their work with other research agencies and criminal justice agencies. Plan for collecting the data required for the solicitation's performance measures is 5%. Describe the process for assessing the project's effectiveness through the collection and reporting of the required performance metrics data, including who will be responsible and how data will be collected. List any additional performance metrics that will be used to assess the project's effectiveness and the process for collecting the information, including who will be responsible and how the data will be collected. For your impact outcomes, evaluation, and sustainability, you'll identify goals and objectives for program development, implementation, and outcomes. Describe how performance will be documented, monitored, and evaluated, and identify the impact of the strategy once implemented. Describe the strategy or methodology for tracking participants' unique identifiers, gaining access to recidivism data, and reporting this data to BJA. Describe the strategy and methodology for assessing the ability of the programs to assess participants' risk level and criminogenic needs and track that to the responsivity and dosage of the services provided. Lastly, discuss how this effort will be integrated into the state and local justice system plan or commitments, on how the program will be financially sustained after federal funding ends, and the expected long-term results for this program. Lastly, we're going to talk about the budget. Submit a budget that is complete, cost-effective, and allowable. For example, you're going to have reasonable, allocatable, and necessary for project activities. Include an appropriate % of the grant total award for research, data collection, performance measurement, and performance assessment. The budget must indicate how 50% federal funds and 50% match will be allocated to the overall budget. Applicants must budget funding to travel to DOJ-sponsored grant meetings. Applicants should estimate the cost of travel and accommodations for 3 staff members to attend 2 meetings in Washington, D.C. This will include your agency and your research partner. This is the contact information for assistance with submitting your application, as well as assistance with the solicitation requirements. Again, this will be made available to you. We are being recorded, and you can also take a look at the slides for more of this information. I want to hand this over back to Andre Bethea for any question and answer we may have from the audience. Andre?
Thank you, Bonnie. We will now open this up for questions from the audience. To ask a question, please enter it in the Q&A panel on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen.
Hi, we have a question coming in concerning who can provide risk assessments and can they be done by correctional institutions. Absolutely. Risk assessments can be done by whatever partner you deem fit that's been trained to use the risk assessment. Another question concerning SCA solicitations. Are there other SCA solicitations that will be made available this year? Perhaps Andre would be the best person to answer that question if it's currently known.
Thank you, Bonnie. This is the last SCA solicitation, Second Chance Act solicitation, that is being made available for this particular season.
Thank you. Okay, we're just getting in a few more, so pardon me as I read through them. Okay. We have one question. Let's see, these are all concerning that. Can you scroll up a little bit?
That's it.
Ah. Oh, I see. Here's a question again about risk assessment. So in terms of risk assessment tools, we've gotten a couple of questions about this. So the risk assessment tools that should be utilized for this are ones that are evidence-based. There's certainly several out there that you can choose from, but it cannot be a tool that was made only by the institution without any research or data behind it. Any specific questions, you can certainly contact me directly, but they should be a validated risk needs assessment. Okay, can research. Here's another one. Right. So another good question might be coming through for Andre concerning outside research partners or a preferred inside statistician. And so are you able to talk about the requirement for the researcher, and should they be an outside independent researcher?
As is mentioned in the solicitation, there should be an independent evaluator, and so that suggests that it would have to be an outside researcher.
Thank you. Another one coming in, if your reentry organization received an adult demonstration project phase 1 in the past, but was able to get funding for a second phase, are they still eligible to apply for this project now?
Yes, BJA welcomes all applications from state, local, and tribal communities, no matter if you have received the award and have previously received the award.
Thank you. Another question about where can you receive a full listing of organizations of folks who've received Second Chance Awards. Those are available on the BJA website if you take a look under funding and just scroll till you see the award year. You'll be able to break up what agency, including where they are geographically, since that's your question, was awarded and by what fiscal year they were awarded through. Another question, Andre, concerning priority considerations. Is it okay if only one priority consideration is addressed, or do several priority considerations need to be addressed in order to be considered?
Priority considerations are not mandatory requirements. We encourage you to seek all of the mandatory requirements and as best as you can based on your state, your locality, or your tribal community, go along with the priority or commit to the priority considerations.
Thank you. I'll just give it another moment just to see if any other questions are coming through. Okay, we have a question concerning a waiver on matched funds. if you're able to give a small discussion on the process of a possible waiver on matched funds, if that's something that could occur.
Yes, matched funds are available. You are to itemize your circumstance and indicate, and according to the solicitation, has direct guidelines on how to submit a match waiver.
Thank you. Just taking a look to see some more questions that are coming in. Okay, if you're able to talk a little bit about the requirements for the lead applicant, of who the lead applicant could be. So again, this is something that was discussed earlier in the presentation. I don't know, Andre, if you want to just go over briefly the requirements for the lead applicant and who their partners should be.
Yeah, Bonnie, I think it's safe to say that we kind of reiterated it several times throughout the webinar. However, the application is open to state, local, tribal communities, units of government. Nevertheless, the entire application should discuss the role of other agencies associated with continuums of care in regards to local or state councils on homelessness, community stakeholders, letters of support from law enforcement and correction agencies. Therefore, the applicant, the lead, should be at the highest level of state, local, and tribal community to effectively represent the large mass or small mass of agencies within your proposed reentry council or reentry task force.
Thank you again for reiterating that. Just giving it a few more moments as some questions roll through. And anyone who has questions after the presentation, you can certainly contact me directly here at the Justice Center. Just seeing if any others are coming through. Okay. I think we've come to the end of the question and answers. All right. Okay.
Well, we would like to thank you for your time today and wish you luck in your application process. Thank you, Bonnie, and the Council of State Government Justice Center for being great partners. Thanks to you all.
Thank you for your time.
Have a good day, everyone.